access granted. Place 2 diamonds on a table. One formed beneath the earth over billions of years. The other was grown inside a machine in weeks. They can have the same chemical composition, the same hardness, the same brilliance, and without specialized equipment, they can be almost impossible to tell apart. But one may cost thousands more. Why? Because for more than a century, the value of diamonds was protected by something more powerful than geology. A system that controlled supply, manufactured desire, and convinced the world that love required a stone. That system was built by De Beers. Then technology created another diamond, not an imitation, a diamond. And suddenly, the company that taught the world diamonds were forever faced a dangerous question. What happens when scarcity can be manufactured? The modern diamond empire did not begin with rarity. It began with too many diamonds. In the late 19th century, enormous discoveries in southern Africa transformed the global trade. New mines produced more stones. More stones threatened lower prices, and lower prices threatened the idea that diamonds were exceptional. Cecil Rhodes understood the danger. He began consolidating mining claims around Kimberley. In 1888, those interests became De Beers Consolidated Mines. Its power did not come only from finding diamonds. It came from combining producers that had once competed against one another. Independent mines became coordinated assets. Competition became control. And the central rule of the industry became clear. Diamonds remained valuable only while the market believed there would never be too many. Not necessarily too many underground, too many available for sale. That distinction built the empire. De Beers could allow diamonds into the market, or keep them out. A stone could already exist. It could be cut, sorted, stored inside a vault. But until the company released it, economically, it might as well not exist. De Beers was not merely controlling diamonds. It was controlling when the world was allowed to see them. For decades, much of the world's rough diamond supply passed through a centralized distribution system associated with De Beers. Diamonds arrived from producers. They were sorted, classified, grouped into parcels, then offered to a restricted network of buyers, known as site holders. These were not ordinary negotiations. The buyer was shown a prepared box. The contents had already been selected. The price had effectively been decided. The choice was simple: accept the box, or risk losing access to future supply. That gave De Beers something more valuable than sales. It gave the company visibility across the market. It knew what buyers wanted. It knew how much supply was moving, and it could regulate the flow. When production increased, De Beers could absorb stones rather than release everything at once. When demand weakened, it could restrict supply. Inventory became a weapon. The public saw the diamonds placed inside jewelry stores. It did not see the diamonds waiting inside vaults. And those hidden stones were essential, because scarcity is not always the absence of something. Sometimes it is abundance, being deliberately withheld. But controlling supply solved only half the problem. De Beers could prevent diamonds from becoming common. It still needed to make them necessary. By the 1930s, diamond demand was weak. The Great Depression had damaged spending. Europe was unstable, and the American market had become essential. But diamonds had a problem no mine could solve. People did not need them. Marriage existed without them. Love existed without them. So De Beers hired the advertising agency N.W. Ayer. Its mission was not simply to promote jewelry. It was to redesign the meaning of the product. Diamonds appeared in magazines, on celebrities, inside Hollywood romances. Stories linked them with status, permanence, and commitment. The message entered culture from every direction. A man proved his love by buying a diamond. A woman measured that love through the stone she received. Then, in 1947, copywriter Frances Garrity wrote 4 words: "A diamond is forever." The slogan connected the physical durability of the stone with the emotional promise of marriage. But it also solved another problem. If a diamond represented eternal love, selling it became uncomfortable. The customer purchased from the industry, but ideally never returned the stone to the market. The campaign did not merely increase demand. It transformed consumption into tradition, and traditions feel natural, ancient, inevitable. But this one had been engineered. Repeated long enough, advertising stopped feeling like persuasion. It became culture. The question was no longer, should an engagement include a diamond? It became, how large should the diamond be? That was De Beers' greatest victory. The company no longer needed to sell the product by itself. Families expected it. Films displayed it. Jewelers explained it. Couples budgeted for it. Society completed the sale. Once diamonds became attached to marriage, price gained emotional meaning. A larger stone suggested greater success. A more expensive stone suggested deeper commitment. Spending less could feel like loving less, and most customers entered the transaction with a disadvantage. Diamonds are difficult to evaluate. Two stones of similar size can differ dramatically in price because of cut, clarity, color, and certification. The customer saw brilliance. The seller saw grades. The industry saw margin. This does not mean natural diamonds were worthless. They are real geological objects. They are difficult to mine. High-quality stones are limited. But the retail price never represented carbon alone. It included extraction, sorting, cutting, distribution, branding, and decades of cultural conditioning. The diamond was not simply a stone. It was a stone surrounded by a story. And for years, the industry protected that story with one powerful distinction. Real diamonds came from the earth. Everything else was imitation. Then the machines improved. Synthetic diamonds had existed for industrial use since the 1950s. They were small, useful for cutting tools, not engagement rings. But technology advanced. High-pressure systems recreated the conditions found beneath the earth. Chemical vapor deposition built diamonds layer by layer from carbon-rich gas. Eventually, laboratories produced stones large and clear enough for fine jewelry. And this was not cubic zirconia, not glass, not a material that merely looked similar. A lab-grown diamond has essentially the same chemical, physical, and optical properties as a mined diamond. Its origin is different, but visually, the distinction can disappear. This attacked the old system at its foundation. Natural supply was limited by geology. Laboratory supply could expand. Natural diamonds required immense time and extraction. Laboratories required machines and weeks, and consumers gained something the industry had never faced before. A diamond that offered the same visible symbol for far less money. Now the question was unavoidable. If the sparkle is the same, what exactly justifies the difference in price? The age, the origin, the rarity, or the story surrounding it? In 2018, De Beers made a revealing decision. It launched Lightbox, its own laboratory-grown jewelry brand. But it did not present lab-grown diamonds as equal luxury objects. Lightbox used simplified, standardized pricing. The message was deliberate. These stones were fashion, fun, accessible, but not eternal. De Beers was entering the laboratory market while trying to contain its meaning, sell the new product, without allowing it to replace the old one. It was a defensive strategy, but manufacturing improved faster than the story could adapt. More producers entered the market. Supply increased. Prices fell. Larger stones became affordable. Retailers gave customers more options. And De Beers could not control laboratory production the way it had once influenced natural supply. The lab-grown market did not need a central gatekeeper. By 2025, De Beers announced it was closing Lightbox and returning its focus to natural diamonds. Officially, the categories had separated. Natural diamonds represented rarity and permanence. Lab-grown diamonds represented lower-cost fashion. But the retreat exposed the deeper problem. De Beers had entered the laboratory market to define it. Instead, the market defined itself, and it did so without De Beers. By then, De Beers had already lost much of the dominance it once possessed. New mines had appeared outside its control. Major producers left its distribution system. Antitrust pressure changed how it operated. The global trade became more fragmented. De Beers remained powerful, but it was no longer the market itself. Then conditions worsened. Demand in China weakened. Economic uncertainty reduced luxury spending. Retailers struggled with excess inventory. Rough diamond prices fell. Production was cut. And Anglo American, which owns most of De Beers, decided that the company no longer belonged at the center of its future. In 2024, it announced plans to separate from the diamond business. Think about what that means. For generations, De Beers had controlled one of the most sophisticated luxury systems ever created. It regulated supply, shaped distribution, influenced culture, turned an advertising slogan into a social expectation, and now its parent company wanted to sell it. Not because diamonds had disappeared, not because they had stopped being beautiful, but because the machine protecting their economics had weakened. Natural diamonds still have buyers. Exceptional stones remain genuinely scarce. Wealthy collectors still value provenance and rarity, but the mass market is splitting. At one end, rare natural stones sold as history, status, and exclusivity. At the other, laboratory-grown stones offering the same visible symbol at a fraction of the price, and the most vulnerable customer is trapped between them. The person who once stretched financially for a modest, natural diamond can now buy a much larger, lab-grown stone. The industry can say the natural stone is older, rarer, more meaningful, but it can no longer say the other one is fake. So what was De Beers' most valuable product? It was not carbon. Diamonds existed before the company. It was not beauty. The stone already had that. And it was not love. No corporation can manufacture love. But it can manufacture the ritual through which love is expected to prove itself. De Beers sold a connection between a diamond and permanence, between spending and commitment, between rarity and status. The system worked because every part reinforced the others. Mining created the object. Distribution controlled access. Advertising created desire. Culture enforced the ritual. And consumers completed the machine. Lab-grown diamonds did something more dangerous than introduce a cheaper competitor. They separated the physical object from the mythology. They reproduced the hardness, the brilliance, the crystal. What they could not automatically reproduce was the story. And the story was the most valuable thing De Beers ever controlled. For more than a century, De Beers protected the diamond by controlling everything around it. The supply, the buyers, the advertising, the meaning. It did not convince the world that diamonds were beautiful. People already knew that. It convinced the world that diamonds were necessary, that love required proof, that proof required a stone, and that the stone had to come from the earth. Then another diamond appeared, chemically real, visually identical, far cheaper, and produced by a system De Beers could not control. The natural diamond did not change. The story around it did. And when the story changed, so did the value. De Beers is still standing, but the company that taught the world a diamond is forever, is now confronting a much more dangerous truth. The diamond may last forever. The monopoly around its meaning doesn't. Power rarely disappears. It changes shape.